Do you ever feel like you're a fraud?
Imposter syndrome.
You don't deserve to be happy.
Imposter syndrome.
Have you ever felt like someday someone will figure out that you don't know what you're doing? That's called imposter syndrome.
Psychological phenomenon that basically says that people feel like they're not worthy of their success.
Stupid. Not up to the job and you're going to be exposed. Anxious.
You're not smart enough.
Gauche.
That feeling you have when you feel like you're a fraud.
Dull.
Hey you don't know what you're doing here.
Fear that we're not enough.
70% of people have felt the imposter syndrome.
All of this reading and talking about imposter syndrome made me think a little bit about my own story.
We are simply imposters, like an actor in the role of a pilot.
Don't avoid those situations where you could be exposed.
Do you ever feel you don't deserve your achievements?
Anxiety that a lot of people feel.
Imposter syndrome pops up all over the place.
The imposter syndrome has its roots far back in childhood.
Do you ever worry that people will find out you are secretly not worthy?
Oh, I'm just not enough.
After a success, have you dismissed it as luck or timing?
Albert Einstein.
Do you think you have tricked others into thinking you are more successful than you actually are? Do you think others overvalue your success?
How did you know I felt this way?
This is not inborn.
Common amongst women.
Of inadequacy.
Is that it lets you dismiss the evidence.
In the powerful sense children have that their parents are really very different from them.
And both men and women feel this way.
It's more among women.
To a 4-year-old, it's incomprehensible that their mother was once their age.
Imposter phenomenon.
Form of anxiety by the sounds of it.
Stopped wanting to be a photographer or a writer or a scientist because we just felt like a fraud, felt like we didn't belong.
We start out in life with a very strong impression that other people, especially competent and admirable other people, are really not like us at all.
Imposter syndrome is the feeling that whatever you achieve or whatever you do, actually you've achieved it by luck, and basically you're a fraud. So a great example would be like someone who's very creative, who's an artist. It doesn't matter how many great paintings you do and how much people kind of like encourage you and say that they love your work, you're still gonna feel like a fraud. Like actually secretly you're terrible, and you're waiting, for the moment that you're waiting so that like any second everyone's going to find out that you're actually terrible at this thing. The reason this kind of sparked my interest is as a filmmaker and doing something that's very subjective, it's definitely something that I really feel a lot of the time. There are times that I feel very confident in my work and very excited about it, and there are times that I feel like it's terrible, and it doesn't matter how many people write in the comment section or whatever else that it's good and that they like it, I still feel like I've tricked people into saying that. So I kind of went away and did some research and found that it's something that affects a massive number of people, whether or not they've identified it as imposter syndrome or not. And it's generally associated with people who are doing something creative or generally high achievers. With something that's very creative, I can really understand why people might feel like that, because the evidence of being good at something that's an art form is very, very subjective. You could be like you could be the best artist or the best musician in the world, but how do you measure that? Is Justin Bieber the best musician in the world, if he wrote his own stuff? Or is like Mozart the best musician? If so, that's so subjective to try and like quantify what makes you a good artist. And so I can completely understand why people might find it difficult to have confidence in their work, and particularly as if you spent hours and hours looking at something and creating it, and then all of a sudden you take a step back and you're like, oh, I don't really like it. But you've seen so much of it. If you watch any film, no matter how much you like it 1,000,000 times, you're probably going to get tired of it and hate it. So never mind having made it yourself. So it's something that I could kind of understand, something that kind of resonated with me as a concept. So I decided to explore it with a kind of weird, experimental type film. I started with the audio. I went out and I wanted to find a track that's kind of experimental, kind of weird, that represented kind of digital media for me, because any imposter syndrome that I've experienced has been very much around like online and like film and video and that sort of thing. So I found this track, it's kind of quite glitchy. it's rhythmic, but it sounds like, in isolation, like just a series of glitches, which I thought was quite cool. It was kind of slightly weird. Once I had that in place, I threw that kind of into the editing software, and I started looking around for other videos on the internet about imposter syndrome, like TV interviews. Elaine the Bottom, who does the School of Life, did a video. TED Talks, this sort of thing, and I just ripped all of it off the internet. I took the audio and I put it into the timeline, all as just one long thing. So I had like an hour's worth of people talking about imposter syndrome. I then kind of cut through and just took out sections that I thought would make sense or somehow spark an interest in their own right. So a lot of what is said are things that statements like imposter syndrome is this, or do you feel this, or this feeling. It's not somebody telling like an overarching story. So it's very kind of disjunct in how it comes across, which I kind of quite liked playing with. So I kind of took that like hour or whatever else of vocals and voiceover and stuff, and I cut that down to the kind of 2.5 minutes. Again, just pointing out things that were quite poignant in their own right. And then there were a few sections where there was like a woman who was reading off symptoms of imposter syndrome, like, have you ever felt this, or have you ever felt this, or have you ever felt that? And I took those and I cut them down, and then I put other little bits in between. So you've got like dual narratives going on, so your brain can kind of start to catch on to what's being said, and you feel like there's a narrative going, but actually, by the time the video's finished, you can't, it's like a feeling that you're left with. It's not like a straightforward narrative, which I really liked playing with. Once I'd done that, I've had an idea for this video for quite a long time in terms of the visuals, and I really wanted to do something that kind of felt, in a way, like vulnerable, was very kind of raw, and so I shot this footage that was literally just me standing in front of the wall back there. I got a light that I lit behind me, so my face wasn't lit, so I was kind of silhouetted, and then the white behind me was lit up. And then I basically stood in different positions, as you could see in the video. I stood there, I stood close to the camera, I stood side on, I kind of plonked myself around and I just listened to a bit of music while I did that. So I shot that, and then I put it onto the timeline. So then so at that point I've got the music that's a bit weird, I've got the soundtracks are all a bit, all over the place, that I also distorted, so it's like, like the voices sounded a bit weird. And then I added this footage in and I cut it into different places. So then I took footage from a video I actually made for my mum recently for her birthday. It was my mum's birthday last month, so basically I went into all of our old VHS tapes, which are up there, and I played them on a video player on a TV screen, and I filmed the TV screen and I cut it down and I put some Bed Howard music in, and I gave it to her for her birthday so that she could see a load of old VHS footage that my dad had shot. And it was like 8 minutes long. So I took this 8 minutes of video and I put it underneath the video of me looking to the camera. And then I changed the blending mode, which is a way you can change like the opacity, kind of. So you change like the way different levels of like light in the image interact with opacity. And so I shot it so that white would remain like solid, and that darker elements of the screen, I used the blending mode hard light, and I increased the contrast to mess around with it a bit, and made it so the darker elements of the screen, which were my face, because I silhouetted myself, would be cut out and become opaque. I then increased the size of the footage a little bit and put the footage that I'd shot for my mum's birthday thing off these old VHS tapes behind my head. So it creates this slightly interesting effect that's like these, colours and stuff moving behind my head. I then took that and I watched through the video. Obviously I had like 8 minutes of footage, and there were sections that looked a lot more interesting visually than other sections. And there were moments that were kind of poignant where it's like, I don't know, it talks about like crying, or you're a kid and you're happy or something. And there were sections that kind of matched the home video footage from me as a kid, and I kind of really liked that. So I cut it down to 2.5 minutes. And then it still kind of felt a bit bare. It still felt a bit too raw and a bit too, the problem is it's all very cool being raw and vulnerable and what else, but actually it's quite difficult to hold people's attention if it's too stripped back. Particularly if it's like you've just come across my channel for the first time on YouTube. Oh, I've got my phone on. I hope that hasn't messed with the audio. Shit. So I took, so once I had all that in, I kind of did some color correction and made it look a bit better, but still a bit too bare. So I went into the royalty-free soundtrack thing that's available to me as like a YouTube creator. I think it's available to anyone within like the create section on my YouTube channel, and like the video manager. And I found like a sad song that's like royalty free, doesn't need any attributions, and I put that in just to kind of keep a bit of a constant tone going. Still wasn't quite right. So I took every single voiceover, vocal bit, I highlighted it and I nested it, which means you like make them one solid track. I then duplicated that track and I moved it along a little bit so there was a lag. I then put a load of reverb on it. And so what you're left with is it sounds like there are far more voices than there are, because what happens is you hear the initial voiceover, which might be, I don't know, it sounds like a form of anxiety. It might be something like that. And then what you're left with is like, it sounds like a form of anxiety. And it just filled the video that little bit more and gave it a bit more kick, so it didn't feel, just gave it that bit more. I mean, again, it was like really easy to shoot. In terms of filming it, it took me like 30 minutes to film it. Editing didn't take me massively long, maybe a couple of hours. And then the footage was all shot by my dad 20 years ago. So cheers for that one, Dad. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. Thanks very much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you've enjoyed this vlog, breakdown, behind the scenes thing. If you like it, I think we're gonna progress with this format of talking about the video afterwards, maybe with more kind of B-roll and behind the scenes and that sort of thing. But yeah. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. And I will see you in a week with the documentary, I think. And that was a terrible outro.